I want to bring in now Jason Rantz, Seattle radio talk show host. Jason, let's touch on this a bit, and then we're going to get to the crime that's rocking the nation and some pretty explosive comments by one particular squad member, Congresswoman. But for now, Chris Cuomo, the departure, and the collateral left behind for CNN.
Yeah, this was a crisis of CNN's own making. This is no longer simply about helping his brother, which I think people can at least justify intellectually why it happened. It's the sexual harassment bombshell likely pushed this over the line, and either the evidence was overwhelming for it to be, frankly, determined so quickly, because you'll remember that bizarre leaked conversation between him and Michael Cohen, the former Trump lawyer, where he sort of preemptively denied any sexual harassment. It was kind of weird at the time. No one understood why it came out and why he was talking that way. So it's either that or just the idea of dealing with this was the straw that broke the camel's back. If I'm being honest, I find that a little bit troublesome because he should be offered some due process. But ultimately, Chris Cuomo was unliked at CNN, according to these reports. And it kind of makes sense, right? He does have an insufferable personality who kind of pretends that his ability to bench press half his body weight is somehow a measurement of one's manhood. It is not, believe me. We can look at Chris Cuomo for that. So ultimately, they're going to have to decide what they're going to do next and whether or not they're going to lean into some of these calls for a female host to take over.
Now, that's interesting, too. And we've seen the president of the United States want to make gender and race the reason for filling a job. I mean, we'll have to see if that's how woke they choose to get. But look, about the women, again, not an unknown element in all of this. The previous woman who had leveled charges against him, the ABC producer, remember the email that he sent her and her husband? Oh, so sorry for the way that he had acted. I mean, this was a situation that was not even secret.
Exactly. They were very clearly protecting him, but I'm assuming there's something a little bit more damning in this investigation that they found out so far. Because, and a lot of this could have been prevented from the beginning had they punished him early on, right? Wow. If this is simply a punishment for some of the past things that we know about, they could have avoided all of this by giving him some light punishment instead of none whatsoever.
Well, this is not the
first. And they would have been able to get out of this.
Corporation to ever learn that lesson. Look, it is, and I don't use this word very often, ironic that what might have been part of what got pushed out the door also had to do with what his brother was perpetrated to have been doing against women. I don't know. It seems awfully obvious.
I guess it goes around the Cuomo family.
All right. So the man who made the announcement, CNN's Brian Stelter of their media team, getting called out for his panel of guests he brought on the show yesterday to talk about Chris Cuomo's firing. Watch this.
There's a lot more to unpack here. It's been a bruising week for CNN and with a significant change in prime time. And there could be more fallout to come. So I want to bring in three non-CNN voices into the conversation to be as transparent as we can with you at home.
All right. So they're the non-CNN voices. And Sarah Fisher from Axios, David Zurawik, Goucher, college media studies professor, and podcast host Mara Shevchenko. But digging into their backgrounds shows that Fisher actually worked for CNN Politics in 2013. Zurawik refused to say Sunday that CNN has lost trust in the wake of the scandal. I just want to say, sometimes you'll get that fact-checking if you have an actual journalist talk about a journalist leaving. I don't know. It seems so muddled. But he is part of the media team, Brian Stelter. What do you make of the non-CNN voices?
This show, and Brian Stelter in particular, he is a publicist for CNN. He does the spin. He does the control after some story gets out that might look bad for CNN. He's always been that voice. So I don't know why anyone this weekend expected something different. Of course, they lean into voices that no one has ever heard of because it would get less
Except
attention.
for the one who used to work for CNN.
Yeah, but no one knows who these people are. You had Don Lemon out there who has constantly defended Chris Cuomo and react. Well, then all of a sudden that becomes an actual story that people will start to quote.
Yeah, interesting. All right, let's get to this, which got egregiously bad almost overnight. Los Angeles crime victims are calling for the removal of liberal district attorney George Gascon. L.A. and big cities across the country are dealing with a stunning rash of smash and grab robberies. Most of them are blue cities, Democrat-led cities. But according to Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, it's not really happening. She told the Washington Times, quote, "A lot of these allegations of organized retail theft are not actually panning out." But even California's Attorney General, also a Democrat, admits, no, AOC, it's a real problem.
Smash and grabs, luxury store shakedowns, the pillaging of department stores. The organized retail theft we're seeing throughout the country and in California, it's unacceptable.
Republican Jim Jordan says progressives need to look at themselves in the mirror.
Get rid of bail, you shouldn't be surprised when you get more crime. When you defund the police, you shouldn't be surprised when you get more crime. The scary part of all this is it's intentional. The Democrats have legitimized crime now. That is what is so frightening.
So, Jason, we have seen in the course of time, Democrats are now redefining words. You know, you're not defunding the police, you're reallocating their funds. Okay, Kansas City mayor told me that. But this is different. They're not redefining, they're trying to make it vanish. Like we're all having a hallucination about being smashed and grabbed.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is part of the abolish police movement and abolish prisons, and this is how it comes across. This is what the actual plan is, and they believe that these systems were built on white supremacy and they have to be dismantled. They're not just simply using that language anymore. They're, as you're saying, redefining certain words to put a little bit of PR spin on this. AOC is clueless on crime, and I think this has to be on purpose. This has to be deliberate. I think the strategy is that you've got a bunch of people who are very, very far to the left in their own echo chambers. They're not watching Fox News. They're not doing anything beyond listening to each other's nonsense. And they might truly believe, because they don't have any other influence in their lives, that all of this is some right-wing conspiracy that's being pushed by pro-cop folks. But the actual people who live in these cities are being impacted. The business owners are being impacted. The customers who happen to be there during these smash and grabs are impacted. And that comes not just with the danger to them, but at the end of the day, it also comes with political implications.
Right,
and that's
because
why
those are particularly blue voters.
Exactly.
Living
and
in
they're
those
all
cities.
of a sudden saying, wait, maybe some of the positions that I thought were the right move for LA, San Francisco, New York, Seattle, maybe they're not the right move. And you're going to start to see them course correct. We saw it already in New York with the new mayor. You saw it here in Seattle with the new mayor and a new council member. So I do think we're going in that direction. That's ultimately good news.
So that's gentle. Some people that I'm talking with, voters on the left, are saying they don't want to vote for the Democrats who are going to do this. They're not sure that they're going to stay with that party. If you get more independents, you get more opportunity for Republicans, perhaps.
Absolutely.
In a Fox News op-ed, Liz Peek says voters must act on rising crime. And she wrote this, quote, "Let us be clear, the heinous crime wave sweeping our country has nothing to do with COVID-19, as White House spokesperson Jen Psaki has suggested, but everything to do with progressive Democrats throttling law enforcement in our major cities." Echoing what you're saying, Jason.
Yeah, I mean, at some point, people have to realize, the voters have to realize that you have to be your own steward of your community. You have to be the one who's looking out for yourself, your family, your
Now,
neighbors,
you know,
and
the
your
left
friends.
calls those vigilantes, and what would you say about that?
I mean, they can call them vigilantes all that they want, but at the end of the day, you have to make sure that you are not becoming victimized. But ultimately, you have to make sure that you're voting, right? I mean, and we've had this conversation before. We've heard from communities over and over and over again saying that they're sick and tired of the gun violence or the smash and grabs in this case. Okay, but what are you doing about it? Are you getting together and organizing and actually putting the right people in positions of power?
Yeah. Jason Rantz, thank you for breaking down the breaking news and all that was getting us started on the Faulkner
Thanks, Harris.
Focus.